Endless Delve, a never-before-seen event in Path of Exile history, and with it, a hard grind downwards towards the depths of the mines, completely alone. But, as a follow-up to my 19 Mayhem build video, which by the way, thanks to the 82% of non-subscribers that watched it... Now do what you want, it's a free country. Here is my 19 builds for the 1 week Delve race, one build for each Ascendancy. Welcome, it's your friendly neighbourhood badger here, and instead of actually playing the Mayhem League, I'm masochistically making another stupidly large content guide for you all. Filled to the brim with completely hardcore and solo self-found viable options for the Delve League, these builds, one for each Ascendancy, are focused on options that don't require the plethora of things unavailable in Delve. Some of these things include Pantheons, Crafting Bench, Cluster Jewels, Conqueror Bases, Anoints and Oils, Catalysts. You get the point. It will be a grind like no other, and without any sort of trade, certain Ascendancies are going to struggle more than others. Also, levels don't matter in the race to demigods this time around, it's all about that Delve depth, so tankiness, especially for hardcore, will be favoured above all else. And I know what you're thinking, what about ZHP? Stop thinking you can ZHP, you won't be able to pull it off. Crouching Tuna will, but you won't. Stop thinking that. Play a build that has defenses, please. Down below, you can see that there is a colour bar you can jump to with the face of each Ascendancy at the start of it. Simply click on the timeline underneath the face to jump to the Ascendancy of your choice. We will be starting at Witch and going clockwise around the passive skill tree. And lastly, all Path of Building links will be in the description below, as well as any supporting videos or links to help out certain builds. There are a couple of builds that will be similar to the Mayhem video, but most are different, so before you angry Reddit commenters say I'm reusing some content, yeah, I'm reusing some content. But let's go! Starting out on a strong Badger reuses old content section of the video, we are recommending the Elementalist Quad Herald Blade Vortex build again. Elementalist is generally considered the Golem Ascendancy, but also has some great tools for buffing Heralds to a large extent. With the use of Herald of Ash and Herald of Ice for a crazily small investment, Elementalist can zoom through maps with large pack clear on nothing more than a 5-link. Coupled together with Golem buffs, Elementalist gets a respectable amount of life, life regen, and physical damage reduction, not to mention full ailment immunity. Gearing this character is simple, the only uniques you really want to be aiming for are obliteration ones, but even then these are the budget clear options, and later a Carcass Jack can be of massive use with its generic AoE. The tree itself is fairly straightforward, picking up life, Golem, and Herald nodes while filling in damage along the way. Leveling this character is also quite straightforward, using a generic Stormblast Mines and Orb of Storms up until you can collect Blade Vortex, then switching to as many Heralds as you can fit in. I give the Quad Herald Blade Vortex Elementalist a 4.5 out of 5 for speed, a 3.5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. For Necromancer, we all know by now that the best hardcore viable builds aren't actually minion builds. So, once again, I am recommending a corpse build. However, this time around, with gear harder to come by, Spellslinger Volatile Dead is the build here. Once crowned the king of racing, this build, even after Spellslinger nerfs, is entirely viable in all game modes, and shreds through content as soon as you can start slinging. On a big plus side, corpse removal is insanely helpful for Delve, as there are many lingering effects from corpses, so consuming everything around you is a wonderful way to avoid certain death in many situations. Coupled with a very high block and spell block chance from Bone Offering, this build will be zooming to depths lower than the World Championship Limboer. Pathing on the tree is insanely easy as well, picking up some key points and then just filling everything else out with life, and a lot of it. Check the Path of Building for more info. I give the Spellslinger Volatile Dead Necromancer a 4.5 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3 out of 5 for boss killing. Cold damage over time. It's strong, and Occultist is one of the best Ascendancies for it. Vortex is an amazing skill for Delve, and like Necromancer, with the Profane Bloom Ascendancy node, Corpse Explosion adds a super nice defensive layer. I've built this build as a life-based occultist, but it can be adapted to ES. However, doing so in the super solo self-found environment of the Delve race is going to be harder than stacking life. Regardless, this build zooms fast with Vortex on left click, and coupled with Cold Snap for some more single target oomph. Slowing the action speed for Delve enemies with cold skills will also keep you more than safe, so long as you're constantly moving and dodging abilities. To add some extra layers of safeness, taking acrobatics and phase acrobatics is super nice on the right hand side of the tree, but the other option is stacking into some block chance and glancing blows. It's up to you. I give the Vortex Occultist a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4 out of 5 for boss killing. I had to do it to you. Bladefall+Bladeblast Poison Assassin is finally recommended, and there is a mega good reason for it. This build is crazily solo self-found viable and stacks so much damage without much investment into gear at all, only through Assassin's crazy poison ascendancy nodes. Obviously, an obliteration wand is a super nice pickup for corpse removal, but it's not needed. Zooming on completely rare gear is totally acceptable. There's not much to see here other than you can check out Zizaran's full guide for this build below in the description. It's fully fledged there, but my path of building is also below for the Mega Delve SSF version. I give Bladefall+Bladeblast Assassin a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4.5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4.5 out of 5 for boss killing. Saboteur was a bit of a tough one, but we ended up landing on Glacial Cascade Mines. With the recent rework, Glacial Cascade knocks back on all stages apart from the final, meaning it is a great defensive mechanic in Delve. Obviously, Saboteur excels at mines, so just investing in defenses will carry you an extremely long way, but picking up all the necessary mine nodes will benefit you greatly. Seems like acro and phase acro are super needed on this side of the tree, so once again, this build makes good use of those two keystones. In Delve, a good tip would be to keep your detonate button of your mines on left click, as moving and detonating with multiple buttons could become a strain on the wrist, especially if you haven't played mines before. But regardless, these mines will carry you deeper, and deeper, and deeper. I give the Glacial Cascade Mine Saboteur a 3.5 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4.5 out of 5 for boss killing. In the Trickster department, we are switching it up with a Toxic Rain character. With the innate damage over time from the Trickster Ascendancy with some crazy sustain and defenses from Ghost Shrouds, Trickster is a super good pick for the solo self-found aspect of Delve League. Speeding around while throwing out some nice damage over time feels more than smooth, and will get you in the mood for going down. Wind Dancer, Acrobatics, and Phase Acrobatics all work amazingly well together, as we know already, but are amplified even further with the Dodge King himself, Trickster. Picking life up along the way to projectile nodes is pretty much the name of this game, and honestly, if you can get your hands on a Quill Rain, it will actually pretty much carry you through everything, unless you can find a very nice plus to level Gems bow. I give the Toxic Rain Trickster a 4.5 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. It's kinda strange, this is the second Deadeye where I'm not recommending a bow character. Instead, let's take another Steel Skin and show the world just how strong they can be. Seriously, this Splitting Steel Deadeye is going to do wonders in Delve, and with some great AoE and chaining abilities coupled with the life gain on hit. Two-handed swords are the way to move forward here, but one-handed and shield can do well if you manage to find a wonderful weapon. To say Deadeye is a zoomer is a bit of an understatement, and you can take some tailwind action for more zoomies if you want, but I prefer fast and deadly for more generic projectile damage. It can be hard to come by on the tree when you focus so much on defenses and life. I give the Splitting Steel Deadeye a 4.5 out of 5 for speed, a 3.5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. In all fairness, I was struggling to find out the best way to play Raider, as it's strongly considered one of the squishiest ascendancies. However, when looking further into it, Raider has some crazy dodge and also ailment immunity. So couple that with Toxic Rain and Caustic Arrow, and Raider can speed from afar, sit in Delve corners and laugh as they pick up a demigods just by creating the character. But in all seriousness, Toxic Rain and Caustic Arrow Raider focuses on dodge, evasion, bow nodes, chaos nodes, and life in no particular order, and can carry itself through the entire leveling process with this skill. Gameplay is simple. Shoot arrow, run, shoot arrow, win. If you want a fairly uncontested Ascendancy, I assume, then Raider is definitely your go-to. I give the Toxic Rain Caustic Arrow Raider a 4.5 out of 5 for speed, a 3.5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. Sticking with the pew pew arrow gameplay, Pathfinder is a Scourge arrow build. This build is the same from the Mayhem video, and following suit from about half the builds already, evasion and dodge are our friends here. Aside from this, flask nodes, life nodes, and chaos and poison nodes on the tree are the way to go, and due to us being a flask finder, it is by far the tankiest of the ranger ascendancies. Shooting your Scourge arrow and speeding through maps will feel quite clean, all the while being extremely solo self-found friendly, with no required uniques whatsoever. Lastly, the proliferation from the Pathfinder is extremely strong in Delve, often reaching the walls of each zone and nodes super easily, meaning you won't have to worry much about stragglers hiding in the shadows. Tasty. I give the Scourge Arrow Pathfinder a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and to round it out, a 4 out of 5 for boss killing. You know what this build's gonna be. Can we just skip this one? Look, the path of building is below. Just play this build already. It's good. Come on. You can do it. Gladiator brings it back to when Call of Steel just wasn't a thing, and we were but simpletons just looking to slam in peace. The Bleed Earthquake Gladiator is just that, and is strong enough on a very solo self-found budget to bring you deep down in the depths. Hey, slamming the ground can't do you any harm if you're trying to go deeper, right? Axes are the way to go here, and as luck would have it, Delve can actually still drop Shaper and Elder bases. We want to look for a very nice Elder base axe. It can either be made as two-handed or one-handed plus shield, depending on your value of life against speed, and is a build that is constantly moving, no matter what. With a crazy high health pool and some war cries to make you feel like a battle master, this slammer is one of my favourite picks. I give the Bleed Earthquake Gladiator a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4.5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4.5 out of 5 for boss killing. Coming back to old school Path of Exile, we are bringing out a Cyclone Impale Slayer. Though fallen out of the meta in general gameplay, this build shines in the tight corridors of Delve, cleaning up smoothly and efficiently, all while keeping topped up on health due to some fantastic leech nodes. Cyclone is one of the only skills in the game where you can cast and move at the same time, meaning maneuverability is your biggest asset here. It can be played with any sort of weapon, but axes do seem to outperform many others. However, a wonderful Terminus Est sword can go a very long way in the early game if you manage to get your hands on one of these fantastic weapons. With enough life on the tree that even Yggdrasil would be proud, this slicing slayer will demolish your worries about the difficulties of endless delve. I give the Cyclone Slayer a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4 out of 5 for boss killing. We're on to the biggest beefy boys, and what better one to start with than an Earthshatter Juggernaut. Like every build in this guide, it is extremely solo self-found viable, only needing some average rare gear, and lungs of a warbringer to shout your enemies to death. This skill feels so unbelievably fun with the constant shouting. I still consider the Warcry and Slam rework to be one of the finest jobs by Grinding Gear Games. It really is unbelievable the amount of life and defenses you can stack on this mad lad, with my rare gear tree hitting close to 10,000 life, and a stack of armor and fully cap resistances to top it off. Two-handed axe are your best option here. As stated, defenses are easy to come by in other areas, so surviving down in those mines is going to be a cakewalk. I give Earthshatter Juggernaut a 3.5 out of 5 for speed, a 5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4.5 out of 5 for boss killing. You know what, I wanted to throw a curveball in here. Yeah, Earthshatter Berserker is also super strong, but we just had Earthshatter Juggernaut. So to change it up, Bladestorm Berserker will do just fine in the Delve depths. With some tasty Impale shenanigans and whirlwinds that outshine the Barbarian in Diablo 3, this speedy twirler can get you through the hardships of lonely, dark, dank corridors in those mines. Recommending anything other than a good two-handed sword seems pointless with this guy because it's all you really need. Maybe a small amount of accuracy on your gear could go a long way as well. Like Cyclone, you'll be moving a lot after each cast, as your storms do the majority of damage just floating around each delve node, so maybe bring a book or a light audio podcast to chill with while you wait for your basically minioned wind friends to clean up. I give the Bladestorm Berserker a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4 out of 5 for boss killing. For the second time in this guide, Bladefall+Bladeblast makes an appearance, though this time around it is an entirely fire-based spec. Chieftain excels at converting physical damage to fire damage, and coupled with Avatar of Fire, you can get 100% conversion to fire extremely easily. What this means is that you can clear insanely well with Herald of Ash and the large area of Blade Blast, all while stacking your life to insane levels of insane insanity. Man, I love Marauder. Spells can be quite difficult to level with this lad, so I would recommend starting some sort of ground slam melee, just until you get your first Ascendancy. Definitely make sure that you pick up a Bladefall and Bladeblaster level though. Also, picking up nice intelligence and dexterity nodes on the tree will help you immensely during leveling. But after the fact of getting your full fire conversion, you'll start to blast, literally. In the small confines of Delve, this build will shine with some tasty Herald of Ash clear and insanely good burst from your Blade Blast. I give the Bladefall+Bladeblast Chieftain a 4.5 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4 out of 5 for boss killing. Wow, this Ascendancy was so difficult to figure out. The reason being is I was very hesitant to recommend a mana stacking or Archmage build. Getting good life and mana on all of your gear would be a nightmare until you get a bunch of Lucent Fossils in the Delve. But I landed on the self-cast Ice Nova Hierophant. With some insane area of effect and mind over matter thrown in, as Hierophant gives enough mana on its own, this tanky and speedy longneck can basically cover each delve zone while keeping mega healthy. Intensify works really nice for bossing, and Spell Echo will keep the stragglers frozen and away from you. Leveling is as simple as picking up Ice Nova and using it, a lot, to damage the enemies. I give the Ice Nova Hierophant a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. You thought we were going to get through these builds without a Herald of Agony build, did you? Well, you thought wrong. Herald of Agony is insanely good at consistent damage output with you investing entirely into defenses, and coupled with Guardian, your Scorpion Pal will be stronger than the traditional Juggernaut Herald of Agony. If you can get your hands on a golden rule gem, you'll be capping that chaos resistance without any need for much on your gear at all. Herald of Agony works, for those who don't know, on poisoning the enemies in quick succession and stacking Virulence to make your Herald of Agony minions stronger and stronger. We do this by using Poison on Ball Lightning and spamming it like no tomorrow. So, if you're looking for an underplayed Ascendancy to grind your demigods on, Guardian is your long-necked man. I give the Herald of Agony Guardian a 3 out of 5 for speed, a 4.5 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. To round out the Giraffe Men, this Inquisitor isn't actually a crit build. Instead, he's taking a leaf out of Occultist's book, and is instead being built as a Vortex cold dot character. Now, hear me out, it's actually insanely strong with the Ascendancy points of Inquisitor, with the Consecrated Ground and Elemental Ailment immunity. Coupled with a super easy gearing choice, this Inquisitor breaks expectations to pull out some very smooth gameplay. Honestly, Vortex is just so good in Delve, it was pretty much better than many other Inquisitor choices. Hey, it might not be the best, but it is still quite good. Stretching all the way through to the Trickster side to pick up some good dodge from acrobatics and phase acrobatics, this build shines by not getting hit. I give the Vortex Inquisitor a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 3.5 out of 5 for boss killing. And lastly, to finish it right out, the Ascendant was actually probably the hardest class to pick for, mainly as stated before in the Hierophant section for mana stacking problems people may encounter in Delve. But aside from this, I decided on stacking mana anyway, with an Archmage Blade Vortex build. With some crazy defenses and damage, this BV build can zoom through everything with only a couple of casts of your skill coupled with Unleash. You can also make use of Bone Offering from the Necromancer part of the Ascendancy, meaning that capping your block and spell block is a lot easier than it might seem, and extremely helpful in Delve. But I will put this here, Although it may not be the easiest build to get going, I have a feeling that Ascendant will be a very low focused pick, meaning you could have a real good shot at getting a Demigods if you were inclined to do so. I give the Archmage Blade Vortex Ascendant a 4 out of 5 for speed, a 4 out of 5 for tankiness, and a 4 out of 5 for boss killing. Well, that is the end of the 19 Builds Mayhem video. It's been a massive undertaking, but thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching all the way through, a big thumbs up to you, just like you're going to thumbs up this video, right? Yeah, thank you so much for watching. We are done here, and I will like to push just a little bit of a thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon. You can see their names up on the screen now. If you want to become a patron and really help me out financially as I try to still do all of this full time, there's a link down below as well. I do stream live on Twitch most days as well, so definitely come say hi. If you've got any questions about any of these builds, I'm more than happy to help. And lastly, if you've got any other recommendations of what build you think you might be playing in the Mayhem League, comment down below. Let me know, and we're going to have some fun times. So, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and until next time, Badger out.